So I think the biggest thing that gets you better at doing this job is doing more accounts, right? Getting more installs in. So even though like those first 2 years, like I may not have been selling that many per week or per day, like if you add up like those first 4 summers together, like, okay, now I know how to go produce over 400 accounts.
Welcome everybody out to the D2D Podcast, the Golden Door Deep Dive segment where I, your host Roz, pick the brains of all the Golden Door winners of this past year, see what makes them tick, and then see how you guys can become Golden Door winners yourselves. So we got Sebastian Bower today, brought to us by way of Brinks. How you doing, man? Happy to have you here.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. So I just kind of wanted to dive headfirst in. Like, what's kind of your story? How did you get into the industry? What got you to Brinks? Like, just go full out.
So I started back in 2018. I was doing like drop shipping e-commerce at the time. I was in college down in Florida State. And I started watching a lot of videos, entrepreneurship, Grant Cardone specifically. I ended up going out to one of his conferences. It was Vegas, I think. Yeah, it was Vegas. And there was a Brinks dealer that I linked up with out there. They had a booth and they convinced me to, go out for the summer that year. The rest is history. So did a couple years there, a couple years over at Vivint. And then I started with the group that I'm working with now, 2022. So
love it.
Did 40 my first year. I was not good at all. I did like 40 my first summer. Second summer went back out. I did like, I think a little over 50. And then third year was like 120 something. Year after that, right around the same. And then last year was my breakout year. I did 400.
Wow. So it's an interesting progression. Yeah. So like your first year didn't do great. Second year did a little bit better, but not really much. And then third year, like a lot better, night and day. And then fourth year or the next year just exploded. So I want to talk on that. What do you think was the key difference in, you only saw a little bit of growth from year 1 to year 2, but then after that, from year 3, where you sold 120 something to then selling 400, what was the biggest jump or like difference in that jump?
Which jump? The first one to going over 100 or this last one, or just
from going over 100 to going to 400?
Yeah. So number one biggest thing is get around people that are already doing it. You're not going to learn how to sell Golden Door numbers if you're not around anybody that's selling Golden Door numbers. So the group I'm with, like we have multiple guys every single year that sell over 400. So it's just kind of like a standard. Like if you sell under 200 in our group, like you're not really working that hard. So you have to have the right access to the information first before you're able to actually go out and, do the production, or else you're just going to be, spinning your wheels for years and years. So that's the number one thing. I got access to the right information, the right people around me. And then the next is just going to be matching up that information with your work ethic. And I think especially, it takes some years to get some mastery in this thing. Like I think, even if you're not doing super well your first couple of years, just knowing like that work's not going to waste. Because once you get in the right opportunity around the right people, you kind of have like all of this, like you have this fire that's just been built up in you where you're like, hey, I've already put in the work. I've, done all these things. And then you get around the right opportunity, you can just go explode.
I love that. Where were you at this last summer?
I was in Georgia mainly, and Tennessee a little bit.
Georgia, Atlanta, or whereabouts?
Dude, I go all over, but I don't really like city knocking. I'm just kind of small town, so I do it a little differently from a lot of guys now. I just go out by myself with the tech, so I'll go out 5-6 months in the summer. When I get tired, I'll take a week or something, go back out, and then sometimes it makes it stretch a little bit longer throughout the year, but I have a good system that works for me now. But I hit a lot of small towns around Georgia.
I like it. So How long were you out approximately?
So this last year, I try and do about 20% of my goal by April. So I think I had like 80 preseason. So I was just kind of pilled around here a little bit from like January to March. I didn't really go that crazy, but just, a few weeks on and off. And then I went probably, April through June straight, took a couple weeks off, into July, most of August. And then like I pretty much wrapped up beginning of September. And then I was still I was at like 380. So I just went out for like a week and a half back in November and just finished it out.
Nice. There we go. Doing a little last leg. It's funny, kind of my last podcast that had almost or at least a very similar story. Had to go back out and finish. And he also was in Georgia too. So that was kind of coincidental. So, anyways, yeah, I liked what you were talking about with culture and how you guys created your group to where the standard is really high. It's like, hey, if you're selling 200, which to anyone that doesn't know alarms, 200 is nothing to scoff at. That's a pretty good number. 400 is really, really good, obviously, because it's a golden door. But what do you say were like, how did you guys create that culture? What was the start of it? And then how do you keep that going?
When I came into it, it was like the main guy that runs our whole group, Jake Ellsworth. He's been around the industry for forever, but he always sold like 400 plus back when he was on the doors. And when I came into selling with them, he basically had just told me, he was like, dude, if you want to go do a golden door, like this is the group to do it with, like everybody here is selling 300 plus, and they don't another thing I think I can give Jake a lot of credit for is he doesn't give people recognition that don't deserve it. So I think in a lot of summer sales offices I've been to, it's like you go do 6 or 7 in a week and everybody in correlation is like, oh dude, you're such a stud, you're killing it, whatever, right? But like here it's like, I mean, if you're not doing 15 plus a week, it's just kind of like
embarrassing.
Yeah, almost. So because I think with the strategy that we have, and like I said, access to information, we know the right things to say on the doors. We know what to do. We know our strategy, right? If you're going out and showing up to the doors everywhere, every day, I truly believe you should be selling, 2 to 4 every single day if you're actually working the hours.
Yeah. How did you develop that mindset from someone that was originally selling maybe 2 or 3 a week to then you're selling, multiple a day? What's speak to me on that.
So I think the biggest thing that gets you better at doing this job is doing more accounts, right? Getting more installs in. So even though those first few years, I may not have been selling that many per week or per day, if you add up those first 4 summers together, okay, now I know how to go produce over 400 accounts, right? So then off of that, then I'm just trying to compress time down, right? How am I going to do this quicker and quicker and quicker? And just as time goes, you just end up being more efficient. If you truly put in the hours, there's no way you won't get better at the job. You just there's situations you'll get into where you're okay, I've been in this before and there's no training manual or video or whatever that can teach that. That's just pure hey, I'm going out the doors every day. I'm learning this thing, right? So
I love that. I think that's deeply profound. And I love that you guys have that standard. It was funny because Sam and I were kind of jamming on Golden Door Alarm because it's the one where we have the fewest Golden Door winners. And we were kind of talking about it and we're like, well, should we lower the number? Should we make it 300? And it was no, absolutely we shouldn't. It's we need to if we raise the standard, people need to raise themselves to the standard, and we don't lower the standard here. So, love that you guys have implemented that in your culture. I think that's key in creating a winning culture like you guys have. So, definitely big shout out, hats off to you for that. So, now kind of speaking to like the nuances of the sale, and learning how to get good at it. What did it take for you to get good at sales?
I mean, definitely my first 2 years, like I was just like working all the hours. I was doing all the trainings I could, reading all the books. Like I was doing the D2D back when Sam first started it back then. Like just literally anything I could get my hands on, like listen to all the podcasts, like taking something from everybody, like even if it's not even alarms, right? Just hearing different stories from people. Like I think all that, like even if you get one little piece from it, it always is worth it, right? So I think it's just an obsession thing too. Like I really, probably like my second year doing this, after that I was like, all right, if I'm going to stick out doing alarms, like I really want to figure out how to do it like better than everybody, right? Like I want to hit the 400 number. Like it was just such a drive for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And the obsession piece of it, because it's like where your focus is, that's where the energy goes into. So I think that's, having that goal, obsessing over it, that's kind of like the only way to do it. With how big the number is obsessing over it. So I think that's an excellent point. So I want to kind of speak a little bit about, the kind of belief around this too, because it takes a lot of belief around what you're doing and the product that you have. A lot of guys are kind of afraid of alarms because it's like, oh, like the industry's dying. Like, what would you tell to someone that thinks it's like, kind of along those lines?
Yeah, I would say like people that say the industry's dying, like I can agree with them in a certain way. Like the way that we were doing it before, we can't necessarily be doing now, right? So like there's always going to be customers out there. I think the type of customer just changes, right? But I think the good thing is for the guys that have been in this for a while or have put the effort in, right? Like there's information that we have now that we can match up with our work ethic, and we're still going to be able to go out and get deals every day. Like I sometimes think about that too. I'm like, oh, is this dying? Whatever. I'll like get in my head about it and be like, oh, am I going to go sell today? Like I still have those days. Then every day I go out. I mean, I haven't bageled in a long time, so like I'm gonna find deals. Like it's just like if you go work the hours, you know what to look for, like, and you're not wasting your time with people. That's a big thing I do. Like I literally don't waste time with people. Like it's just kind of like I have a super quick approach. It's like, this is either for you, it's not. Like it's not a big deal either way, right? I try and make quick deals on the spot if I got to give them an extra camera or whatever to get it done. But I'm just trying to do fast business, right? That's the only way to do a lot of volume. So you can, like, I think a lot of guys, like, they think it might be dying because they're not talking to probably as many people as I am, because they're trying to take, an hour, 2 hours up of somebody's time, like trying to get in their house, do a presentation, when it's like the best guys, like the top of the top guys, like we all pretty much know, like within a few minutes of talking to them, like, hey, am I going to sell this guy or not? Like, is it worth my time? And half these deals I'm doing on the doorstep.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of cool that you mentioned that. I remember my rookie year at Vivint. Shout out Sean Cook, who sold over 300 that year. I remember he kind of gave a training to our squad, and he's like, guys, I kind of just look at this like it's a pest control sale. Like, and it's always different for every person, right? But he's just like, I'm not going in the house. I'm closing them then and there, like on the doorstep, like, and I'm just trying to get quick. He's like, I just knock the door, tell him, hey, my techs are in the neighborhood. My trucks are here right now. We're just getting this done. What problems are you seeing? Okay, boom, boom, boom. Sign the docs. Here you go. Let's get it in. And like, I think that's important. So, and after having interviewed so many different like pest control guys, that kind of how it is. It's like, just identify the problem, identify it as quickly as you can, push the pain button and close the deal and just move forward with it. I think a lot of guys, especially in alarms, I think you're kind of right. It's like the industry is alive and well. It's just maybe our approach to how we sell it has kind of is dated, and we need to update with the times. It's like, cause yeah, guys can go out and buy cameras at Costco, but what's the unique value add that we provide? to this customer? How it, like, let's make this a no-brainer for them and make it a win-win in the end too. And I like what you said too. You got to make it make sense for them as well. So I think that those types of mindsets are really big. So what do you believe is the key to making an alarm sale really quick?
So I think a big thing is trust. Like if the customer trusts you, it's like that book, Speed of Trust, right? Like the higher the trust is, the quicker the transaction is. So how do you build trust? Like, dude, you just met this person, like they're not going to trust you right away. But the sharper you are, like people want to do business with the guy that's sharp on the ball. Like you want to be the best dressed person like in your field, right? Like you want to be coming up to their door, you're sharp, you know exactly what you're talking about. They can't knock you off. And like it's the customers, they tend to eat alive the new reps, right? Like everybody knows like the rookie, they come out there, right? Like they got all the confidence in the world and they're just rambling and the customer's just sitting there like, dude, I don't know what this guy is saying, right? And they just eat them alive, knock them off the doorstep. And like that really doesn't happen to me anymore because it's just I'm speaking with conviction and I'm holding my ground, if that makes sense. And I know what I'm talking about. So when you have like very heavy conviction in how you're talking and you're not lying to these people, like you're telling the truth, like they automatically trust you, right? So like it's not a big deal. Like it's an alarm system. Like people are used to buying stuff like all the time. I think anything, if you sell for any, company for pest or alarms or whatever you're selling, like if it's a good deal, like you really got to get out of your head on like how much of a big deal it is for these people to spend $50-$60 a month, especially if you're doing switchovers. It's like, dude, they already have the system, you're matching the monthly, like what else is there to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is things I've spoken on the podcast before. It's like sometimes as rookies, as new reps, we get in our heads about like, oh, I don't want to charge this person. I don't want to add a $60 a month bill to their already long list of bills. But it's like, in the end, it's like, that's nothing to them. People piss that money away. And the fact that you can go in there and solve a critical issue, such as the protection of their home and family, it's a no-brainer at that point to go close them, especially on something that is actually affordable. And sometimes new guys just starting out, they don't have any bills, they don't have anything they're paying for, so that's kind of how they view it. So let's speak to me a little bit about kind of that mentality. Then how do you develop that kind of like conviction and mentality of like, this is something that they need, this is something they've been looking for? I mean,
mainly just knowing like, hey, like the stuff we're doing, like this product, like it does actually work, right? So everybody has a pain point, like especially if you're doing, you're doing a lot of switchovers, whatever, like you're just trying to create value for that person's life, right? Like you're trying to leave that person in a better position than they were when you first got there. So, I mean, there's a million different ways to skin a cat, like in alarms, for example, right? Like you're trying to fill in the gaps. Like, okay, do they not have a doorbell camera? That's a pain point right there, right? Like that's something cool that you can get them bite on right away. Or, all right, they already have security. Okay, most of the time when they set these things up originally, they just do it pretty basic, cover the doors in the motion. Was there anything else that didn't get covered originally? Like whatever you want to say, just trying to like figure out like pretty quickly, hey, what's a gap in this that I can go and, fill in that gap on and then, create some value for the customer, right?
Absolutely. So are you mostly a switchover guy or are you fresh, kind of mix of both? What does that look like?
80-90% probably takeovers.
And what's kind of like your reasoning for that? Why do you like to do switchovers?
I just want to deal with people that are already qualified buyers. So, I mean, I don't really want to, it's such a big barrier if somebody's like never had an alarm system before, other than maybe it being a new homeowner and or a new development, like that's a little bit different. But like, if you're just going out knocking doors in like an older neighborhood where these people have been here for 30 years and never got an alarm, could you go sell them? Yeah. I mean, like anybody that's good, you go knock enough doors, you'll talk to some people, you'll sign people up. But it's like my job, like I really don't want to be like, I don't want to be wasting my whole day trying to convince somebody to get a system. Like if I can just go run through the numbers, like just go run through a bunch of signs of people that, have systems or whatever. Like, I mean, it's it's just saving your time, being more effective, I think.
I love that. Dude, you down to do a little role play?
Sure.
Yeah, man, I've had ADT for a few years. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, everything should be working good so far. When they set it up here originally, it was tied in as analog. Since then, everything's gone digital. It was tied in originally to where if the alarm went off, they called you on the phone. Have you ever had that gone off before?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of annoying, actually.
Yeah, it happens. If you think about it, if it was a real break-in and somebody was standing in your family and breaking in, it's not like you can just drop what you're doing and say, hey, stop breaking in. I got to pick up my phone from the alarm company. You know what I mean? So unfortunately, there's not really a way for the police to know what's going on. So they don't have as much urgency to respond as quickly, which is the entire reason you're paying for this whole thing. So now with digital, they're able to come over that speaker inside the home, almost like OnStar. So that way they can still get in touch with you in case you can't make it to the phone. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
Cool. At the same time, they can hear what's going on now too. So if there is glass breaking, people yelling, hey, go grab the CV, whatever it may be, they know right away, hey, it's a real break-in. They're not wasting 30 plus minutes calling all your emergency contacts for no reason. They're just responding right away, which again is the whole reason you're even paying for this thing. You're not paying for it just to beep. You're paying for somebody to show up as fast as possible. So anyways, there's no additional out-of-pocket costs to get it done. The monthly stays right the same. Just change the panel from analog to digital. Pretty cut and dry, pretty simple. It's not reinventing the wheel. Currently, we were typing in the buttons on the wall. Do you remember, did they give you the SafeWatch keypad or did it say SafeWatch Pro on it?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I can check it on the keypad for you real quick. Do you want my shoes off?
Yeah, that's fine. So yeah, let's break that down a little bit. So guys, notice I think the first thing that stands out to me is painting the picture. Like exposing the problem and then painting the picture. So the way that you described like a hypothetical situation, and it raises an excellent point, and more importantly, it raises the emotion of the situation too. So things like that. So that really is like and then also notice like the transition was just so smooth. It's just like, yeah, this is like the easy, like I just swap it out and boom, boom, boom. So do you get, is it kind of more of like a contract panel swap for you? Are you adding cameras or what's kind of the upsell opportunity that you bring to the table?
So it just depends. Like the main thing I'm harping on is definitely two-way voice. So a lot of times I don't have to give them a whole lot, but if they're not biting on the two-way voice, then yeah, that's where I'm gonna have to create a little bit more value. Like if it's an older person, I'm giving them a medical button every single time. Like older people, it's like you explain the two-way voice to them and they're just kind of like, oh, whatever, this thing, they came out one time before, if this thing works, the police come out. I'm like, cool. Yeah. All right. I'm going to go a little bit different angle with those people, do a medical or, maybe some younger people that are like, maybe got it within the last few years. And, maybe for some reason they did have the two-way voice activated already. Then I'm going to go maybe going into like a camera pitch, right? So yeah, cool. Yeah, what we'll do, we'll just make the cameras digital to where now, just like the alarm can talk with you, the cameras can talk with you too. So I'll maybe go that route.
I like it. Yeah. It's a real kind of like simple no-brainer approach to it, to a switch over, honestly, because it's like what you said, it's just, what are the gaps? What did they not get? And especially with like those older alarm systems, guys, if you're in alarms, those are the laydowns. Go get those ones. Do you run into it often where it's like, you're bringing up like, the update from analog to digital, but they actually do have like a fairly new ADT system or something where it is a digital system? And in that case, what do you do?
Yeah, a lot of times they still don't have two-way voice. So I'm still pitching on that. And like ADT specifically, a lot of their newer cameras, especially the doorbells, they don't work. So it's just kind of like just knowing your customer, and the more doors you knock too, like you'll start noticing like different trends and like, okay, this certain company, they, a lot of these haven't had cell chips updated. They have like COM fail or whatever. So, they're good to go for, getting them switched over. Like their system's not working, or, their doorbell doesn't work, or this, if they got a Sky Bell or something, right? It's like, it's always going offline. So like whatever it is, like the more doors you knock, like you'll start to kind of notice like whatever the pain points are. And you just get better at like knowing what's in the, what they have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's funny because like over time you're like, oh, everyone has this like DSC push button panel. Like you just know it. And the second you start like saying what they have, they're like, oh, he's either like been in my house and is creepy, which they never think that, or they're like, oh, he's an expert in this. Like he knows what he's talking about. He actually has been with everyone. So like adding the level of like, I'm the expert, very essential here. So, speaking to me about, cause obviously like it takes a lot to, sell 400 alarms. You have to be very good at closing and finishing up, wrapping up and getting the deal installed. What did it take for you to learn to get good at closing?
I would say a lot of probably like trial closes. Like that's what I do a lot of. If they're giving me a lot of pushback, I think like maybe harping on like the trial close, and then knowing that like if they're like if they've made it that far in the process, like they are interested. It's just like there's just a little bit of a barrier to entry. So a lot of times if you just like kind of stay in there, like you just stay in like the boxing match, right? Like you can get them on board. And that's really what separates the big hitters from, the lower producers, right? It's like, hey, can we get this thing installed, and can we get it installed same day, right? So like just having those, those closes in the back of your pocket.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you mentioned the trial close, because a lot of guys, maybe like they go a couple rounds, round 1, round 2, and they like, they run out of things to say. What would you say to that person that is kind of like running into that? How do you help them?
Yeah, so I think a lot of times when guys are running into that and like nothing's working, sometimes people maybe they just weren't like super interested to begin with, and you've kind of just been like, kind of like pulling teeth throughout the interaction to try and like present to them, but you probably didn't pick up on some of like the non-buying signs from along the way. Like they might be, the customer might be talking in a way of like, yeah, if I were to do that would be, I would do that. If I was going to do that, like, so if they're talking like that, like a lot of guys will like end up with customers like that. They're just like nice. They're just like nice and just want somebody to talk to, but they're not maybe like interested. So, but if somebody's like clear, they've got clear buying signs, right? Like you can get them on board pretty much every time.
I love it. Yeah. So it's, I think that's important to, recognize that throughout the sale. If you're starting to see that, if someone's kind of dropping the like, oh, like I could see myself if I did that or things like that, and you're seeing that early, what's your approach? Are you wording things different? Do you take it in a different direction? Do you kind of just drop them, or what does that look like for you?
I'll probably just maybe take a little bit of a step back in the sale, like try and relieve some of the buying pressure, because a lot of times that's why they're talking like that, is they just feel that like they just feel buying pressure, right? Like, oh, get this guy's just here to sell me, right? So then it's good to take a step back and be like, hey, like you're already paying for this thing. Like you guys already have this stuff. Like it's not reinventing the wheel. Like I'm not trying to sell you guys on like a brand new system or anything like that. Like this isn't anything that'll cost you. It's just like, you guys obviously have security for a reason. You guys have this thing so that the one time you need it to work, it works and somebody shows up as fast as possible. Like you're not paying for this thing for no reason. You know what I mean? Like what's the main reason you guys got this thing originally? And then maybe try and flip it on them, right? Okay, it was for security for the family, right? Cool. Yeah. So obviously, nobody ever says no to a more secure system. They just want to, it usually comes down to the money portion, which we're going to take care of for you. So anyways, like I said, it's going to go, analog to digital, blah, 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 go back into the pitch.
Yeah. Kind of uncovered that like true hot button. So like, what was the real reason you got into it? What if it's a fresh system then?
If it's a fresh system, and what was the question? You're trying to get the hot button?
Yeah. It's like, they're kind of being a little wishy-washy. Oh, like if I did this, like, you can't really see a ton of obvious buying signs per se, but they're talking to you.
So then I would probably I'd probably throw out a couple more like hot buttons, right? Like, cool. Yeah. So like, yeah, I mean, that's like, it's not like super crazy. Like, it's not, people don't like absolutely love the idea of like, those like basic calculator alarm systems like you've seen before. I think that's why like what held a lot of people back in the like over the years is they just didn't really see like a ton of value in, paying for some keypad on the wall. This isn't just an alarm. Like this is a lot more, right? Like you're controlling the entire house from your phone. Like it's going to set it up to where you can do, thermostats, door locks, like doorbell camera, all the cameras all from your phone. Like it's like you would use it every day. So like the biggest thing with this stuff is like everybody likes the idea of it. Like they've seen it before on TV. Like you've seen everybody in your neighborhood. They like, most people have something like this. Like what's held you guys back before from doing something?
Well, honestly, like it's pretty safe around here. I don't feel like it's that like urgent to take care of it right now.
No, for sure. And like, when do you, like, I totally get that. Like, when do you think most people usually get something like this, before or after something happens?
Probably after.
Right. And I mean, nothing wrong with that, but it's like, hey, like at the end of the day, like this is just kind of like an insurance policy. It's the same reason you get insurance on your house. Like you're not hoping that anything happens. Right. And hopefully nothing ever does, but it's just saying like, hey, like it's the smallest bill in the house to protect your base investment. Like it's, at least it's peace of mind at the end of the day, but it is something you would use.
Awesome. Yeah. Let's call that there. So yeah, again, it's, kind of like what you said, you're throwing out the hot buttons and then seeing what sticks. And then it's like, pressing those pain points and then adding that value. So, I think that's very important, especially in a fresh account scenario. So, now speak to me about, so like just kind of like the mentality part of it, because this is your second golden door. What gave you the motivation and the drive to go do a second golden door after you'd done a first one?
A big thing was like, I didn't want to have a big drop off year this year. Like I wanted to at least like have, one repeat. I was like, I don't want to be a one hit wonder. Like I think anybody can go have like a good year, but like what really separates like the dogs in this industry from everybody else is like who's able to go out and do it like year after year. Right. That, and then like, obviously like the money portion too, like knowing like, all right, if I want to make the same money I made last year, I've got to hit the same numbers. Like that was big for me too. And then it just helps having the golden door as like a benchmark, right? Like when if you're at 300 or whatever, and that's, kind of nearing the end of the year, you're like, all right, I just need to, have that extra push. So I think that does help.
Yeah, absolutely. And now kind of shifting over into D2D Con. So last year we had you on the alarm panel. So you're no stranger to D2D Con. What are you most looking forward to?
Definitely looking forward to hearing from the other speakers. Like I think you can always get something from everyone, and there's a lot of really heavy hitters in this industry that are going to be there. So it's cool too, seeing like, some of the guys that, run businesses and whatnot, seeing their mindset based on, not just selling, but like actually running a business, like seeing a different side to it. Same thing with recruiting too. There's a lot of heavy hitters with recruiting too that I've ran into there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's fun to just like kind of intermingle with different industries. It's like talking to a Windows guy, talking to a solar guy, talking to a pest guy. It's awesome to kind of network and create those relationships and see how they do things. It's like the principles are kind of the same, but they also take a different approach to it. And you can always learn something from everyone. So absolutely love that. So, dude, Sebastian, it's been awesome having you on the podcast. I really appreciate you coming on, dude. Do you have any parting words for the industry before we let you go?
I would just say, especially for like the first year guys, like just stick it out. Like you never know what can happen if you just put your head down and really just run with this thing for a few years. Like, anybody that's going out for the summer, their first time or whatever, it's like, hey, take this super serious. Like this isn't like, these opportunities don't just come lightly, right? Like we haven't, we have an opportunity now that we may not have, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So just take advantage of it while you got it.
Love it, man. Well, dude, thanks again for hopping on. Guys, this has been Golden Door Deep Dive segment. Keep tuning in. We'll see you at D2D Con January 25th through the 26th, or through the 27th. My bad.